Welcome, welcome, welcome to She Rises with Melody Williams and Jane. She Rises because we believe that every woman can arise.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important that we also, Melody and I, we met and we really formed a bond very, very, very easily. I will give her husband Mike the connection. He got us connected. I think he knew that we were both powerful women and that we had a lot to share. So that's good. And I'm glad that I met you because it really has changed a lot for me. And we're going to talk about some of those things. So I feel like when I met Melody, I was going through very difficult times. So I didn't know Melody at first. I knew her husband. So I asked him if we could please get together because I needed someone to talk to. And he always said, if you ever need someone to talk to, just reach out. I got you. So I reached out and he did. And not only did he have me, but then he brought Melody with him, his wife. And it was a pivotal changing moment in my life. So I am hoping that other females will get that same thing, just your normal everyday communication. You're very uplifting, you're very empowering. So, for example, one of the things that I was doing that I didn't realize I was doing until I met with you was I would mess up something and say, oh, that was so stupid, or I'm so stupid, or that was, and you said, will you stop that? Why are you talking bad about yourself? And I was like, I don't know why. So Miss Melody gave me a 30-day challenge to stop talking bad about myself and to see what happened. So, first of all, I definitely challenge everybody that's watching this to do this yourself because things have changed for me in the past 30 days. I can't even tell you. So, of course, I still say things like, oh, that was so dumb. But then I'll catch myself and be like, no, it wasn't. It was just a mistake. No big deal. And then I move forward. Since
To open up and take the help that we need. And if I think that it's really done all in how you deliver it to someone, that if it's done with compassion and love and support, then we're willing to make that change, especially when it's something that we've done all of our lives and we don't realize it. But then when someone brings it to the forefront of our mind, we're like, why am I so critical about myself? Why do I say what I say? What do I do? It is a part of my paradigm that I've always done. But now someone has brought it to my attention. And for me to realize that change always starts with me. Let me just go into a relationship real quick, a relationship dynamic that whether it's a husband or wife or two friends, and you're seeing the other person and say, oh, they need to change or they need to fix that. But then you play a part in that role also. What part do you need to change? What part do you need to fix? Especially, I do a lot of, marriage counseling, and they usually come with oh, it's her fault, it's his fault, it's her fault, the back and forth. And I said, okay, wait, but the part that you play in the role either supports the interaction or the dynamic between the two of you. So it is, I just call it everybody has a dance.
a relationship that is happening that's allowing the behavior to continue. So whether it's
Yes.
the person doesn't feel that they have the self-worth to
Mm-hmm.
stand up to it, or whether it's because they have 5 jobs and they're not, around the family, like whatever the case may be. It's not victim blaming. This should never happen. But again, to understand human behavior so that you can see these things for what they are when they happen.
Yes, I agree. And that sometimes it's the subtlety that we miss in the relationship. And it could be something as small as communication. I feel as though you're not present in the moment for me. So now there's a disconnect. And with that disconnect, keep in mind in every relationship, somebody is going to fill that need for me. So whether it's in the home or whether it's outside the home. I know I'm looking at
That's
you like,
right.
I know, but it is because that's when you get the friend at work. And there, I know I use my hands a lot, so I'm trying not to.
Too.
You're either in the relationship, and someone has got to meet that need for you. And so it's going to be the friend at work, and like, oh, I'm talking. Next thing I know, I'm talking to someone that I shouldn't be talking to, as opposed to talking to my mate. So now I'm building a relationship, and it's very subtle how it sneaks in. That now I've got a confidant, and they're listening to me, but they're really feeling the need that I should have fed at home, and I'm missing it. And
That's
so
exactly right.
I know. And the next thing you know, there is an intimacy that now is exchanging on the job or somewhere else that should be occurring in the home. But once you're getting it fed, you don't really care where it's coming from.
That's right.
And
No, that's right, because we have needs.
yes, and it starts with just something as far as communication. You're not there for me. You don't understand. And then, it's I mean, it's so common. It's like the same trick in the book that happens so much. You feel as though oh, the wife or the husband could be home, got all the kids, and now you absorbed with that, and that's where your focus is, and the focus stops being on the person that you said I do to. So now you're like, okay, how do I regain that? And it's to close the outside distractions, those doors, turn it inward and say, okay, we need to just unplug, we need to get away and start the conversation over again.
So let me ask you a question. If I was a young woman and let's say I was losing this connection and because like you said, it happens subtly. So you wind up, connecting with someone at work and then you're like, wait, we have this connection and maybe they have a need too that's not being met. So you're filling their needs, they're filling yours. Let's say you get to a point where you have like an aha moment and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't right. How I think a lot of females don't know how to then back up with so they and again, you would think that it would be as simple as saying, like, look, I realize that this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this. But a lot of times females feel like they played into it so that they play a role in it. So, how would you give advice to somebody to get out of that situation once they're in it before it goes to something physical?
All right, first thing I would say, where are your boundaries? Are we just in a relationship? Is it casual? Is it just physical? Is it a friend with benefits? You kind of need to define what the relationship looks like, one. And then if it's something that you're vested in, then you want to make the decision, is it worth saving? So there's levels to it that I would suggest. And once you make that
Oh, yeah.
decision, yes, it's something that it's worth saving, then I would say, okay, then my approach would be I would begin to close the door or slowly pull away from the outside distraction and now focus my attention that I was giving outside to inside and say, you know what, we really need to talk. There's some, and
I love
your
that.
your feelings are real to you. And see,
Yes.
sometimes we as women we play it down like, oh, I'm just feeling that. Oh, it's not there. No, my feelings are real to me, and I have a voice in the relationship. So that when I come to that, but now there may be more dynamics that now the person that you're dealing with has turned a deaf ear to you. So like now they're not
I
listening.
think that was going to say that's a problem. Sometimes women are like, yeah, that's easy. I feel it. And I go to talk and then I get shut down. One of the things I do suggest to women, if you ever need to talk to like your spouse or boyfriend or girl, whatever, um, don't start out by saying, can we talk?
Right.
That's like the worst thing you could do.
Because
You're
they know what's
literally,
coming. They know
you
what's
know what's
coming.
coming. You're like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Oh, they're breaking up with me at 3 o'clock. Like you just
Yeah.
so and then you give the person the time to think of all of the things that you're going to bring up, and then they already start thinking about comebacks. So instead of doing
Yep.
something
They've
like
got a
that,
guard up. They put the wall up
yeah,
already. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. So instead of doing that, just do it in a moment. Just start talking. That way you catch the person off guard a little bit so they didn't have time to think about it beforehand. But I think also you have to be willing to accept what you hear, right? Maya Angelou
Yeah.
says, listen to somebody when they tell you who they are. So,
Believe them.
yes, believe them. And the thing is that I tell my students all the time, I'm also a professor, in case anybody's watching this, of psychology. And I tell my students all the time, if somebody shows you or tells you, especially tells you who they are, believe them. When I
Thank you.
have my teacher passes and I have to give them to a responsible student to bring to the dean, like the where they say they've rate me, I always say, which one are you are my responsible students? And the students that raise their hand are the ones that I ask. So, you know what I mean? If the student's like, don't give it to me, I'm irresponsible. Oh, I ain't giving it to you. You're irresponsible.
Right.
You just told me
Right.
that.
Right.
So when someone
Exactly.
says something, believe them, which goes back to that 30-day trial. So in
Hmm.
one sense, I'm teaching my students and my daughters, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And then at the same time, I could say something like, oh, I'm so stupid. So I think it's important that we point out that you shouldn't do that to your.
What would I tell that young lady? So once we set up the boundaries as far as where's the stage of the relationship, one of the main things that I would say as far as communication, and you brought on an excellent point, as far as don't say, oh, we need to talk, because you have already put the wall up and now you're going to try and bring the wall down and they're not listening. That's the bottom line. They're not listening. So my thing is, I always say, you take it as far as, okay, if we're on a drive going somewhere for a minute, we go out to dinner, anywhere that it's just me and you, and now this is the focus. So even with dinner, let's leave our phones, aside for a minute, and we're going to talk, communicate, and it could be something as serious like, okay, what do you enjoy, and just what do you enjoy in this relationship? You want to see where they are,
That's a good
and then
question.
yeah, and that's going to open up the door to communication without saying we need to talk, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And not just that, think about it, right? So think about you being the person on the other end if you're listening to this. If your
Mhm.
boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever said to you, we need to talk, where would your mind be? As opposed to if you're sitting down and they ask you something about like, are you happy? What do you like the best of our relationship? So
Yeah.
these are different types of questions where you're setting them up for success, not failure. So they don't have
Yes.
to be defensive.
Yes. And that's how, and that makes you approachable to them now.
It
Because
does.
if I'm not approachable, I've already shut you down. So you're talking about this young lady book. How can you do the assessment? Because that's what you really want to do. You want to do an assessment of your relationship to reset it. And so now if you're asking that question, so he says, well, you know what? I feel like you're never home anymore, or I feel like you're too busy here. Now they're telling you without putting you on the defense because real to that kid. That is
Very
real.
real.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have to make sure that we don't, like throw it to the side, because this is where the things start, is when we're young. So when we say something to the kid like, oh no, like, are you ridiculous or whatever? Now we're just letting the kid know that their perception is ridiculous. And so I think it's important because these are the kids that grow up that are going to be tuning in today. So a lot of
Yes.
this stuff started when you were younger and you didn't necessarily have control over that situation.
I love it now because, of course, you just opened up a whole doorway for me there because we're talking about relationships. And the main thing that I have seen, a lot of young girls have daddy issues, which are coming out in their relationship. So that, of
Like
course, ties
thousand
into
percent.
what I saw when I was coming up. Who created your paradigm of relationship? That's what the relationship is about. Because keep in mind, in this culture, we have been told because you came up watching the Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty, the Dippity Doppity Doo, that relationships
I
are
say
meant.
that all the time. I say that all the time. I'm like, we give our girls all these Disney movies and we wonder why they're depressed when Prince Charming doesn't show up on a horse.
Or when Prince Charming really turns out to be the frog, okay? Not the other way around.
No, but you're right. It's the truth. So that
Yes.
doesn't mean that we should, but at the same time, because sometimes I think people hear that and then they go the total opposite way. So you shouldn't go the total opposite way and be like, life isn't like that, because you still want somebody to set high standards for themselves,
Yes.
but just
Yes.
letting them know that this is a fairy tale and it's a made up, type thing. I don't think that there's harm to that, but we do have to watch, because you have to remember, right? So in 1 minute, we're telling them that, because I think this gets so complicated, right? So let's say your kid's thinking and they're watching all these movies and Disney princesses, and you try to get across that that's not necessarily real life, but then at the same time Christmas comes and we're like, Santa's coming and stuff like that. So I do think, and then even with like the social media today, they have those things like the Slender Man guy. I don't know if you're aware of
Yes.
him, but he's a scare, you know what I mean? And according to the Slender Man, you're not allowed to tell your parents about him, or that he could kill them. And so my thing is like, there's animism that we need to deal with too. And where do we find that balance between letting our kids know that this is real and this isn't, but that it's okay to engage in some of it, but not all of it? Would
I
you have
think
a
that is,
suggestion for that?
yes, and I think that is one of the I don't want to go the dynamics of parenting, that you have to find that fine line. Because now I was not one of the parents that raised my kids with the Santa Claus theme. I wasn't. I gotta go get it for you. So it just made good sense, because how can I tell you one thing is true and then I tell you another thing and you come to find out that it's a lie? So to be authentic, and that's something that of course we want to talk about on this channel. How can I be the authentic me and show up every time? So to
I
be
love that.
authentic in just parenting, because I remember when I found out that there was no Santa, I was kind of like, dang, that's jacked up. Like, you believe in this stuff. I didn't even have a chimney. So what was he gonna come down?
I didn't have a chimney either. Wait, so my dad he made like a cardboard chimney, and
Uh-huh.
we put it like in the living room as a decoration. And I remember living in inner city Philadelphia in a row home. And I remember thinking like, and my youngest daughter is the one that said it to me, because she was in a same thing, row home, inner city Philadelphia until a couple years ago. But I remember she even said to me, she's like, Ma, I know daddy's not letting some guy come down in a chimney that we don't have. Like, she was just so confused. Where my older daughter was like, I don't care. I want to believe it. So I feel like there's some kids
Yes.
that like, so with
Yes.
her, I didn't do it as much because I didn't want to disappoint her either. I feel like she knew that there was, but I'm like, not for nothing. You can't have your menstrual cycle and believe in Santa. Like, that's a little too much. She was like
Yeah.
13. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
enough. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't be
And
asking
that's
Santa for car
yes.
keys.
Yes. And it's kind of, I guess your parent, everyone has a different parenting style, but that was mine because of course that is always my endeavor to be authentic if I can, you know.
And
And
I
I
love
think
that because as a mom, we want our kids to trust us and believe us. So it's almost like you said, well, what do you mean that's not real? So what else did you lie to me about?
right, right. And now you're talking about an awkward time because it's like, okay, so do you know you're most just instinctually we trust our parents to tell us the truth, to lead us, to guide us, direct us. So now, and that's all, life culture would have to suggest to them, well, mommy lied about this. What else did mommy lie about? And that was something simple. So, so you're building
Yes.
that division and it can, and once again, we're talking about just the subtlety of life can put you on a spiral that you don't know where the end is.
And this, I think, a big part of this podcast will be how do we get off of that moving train without getting hurt?
Yes,
Because I
I
think a lot of people don't realize they're in a moving train like that going down the road of bad until they're already on the train and it's going.
listen, they have the steering wheel in their hand, don't realize you the one steering the train.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So going back to relationships with like partners, when a partner, this is another thing. So let's say you were dealing with a couple who was not married and who did not have children yet, and they were in a situation where, because this happened to a student of mine, and she said to me that he logged into her computer the one night, and I guess he put in his password or whatever, and her computer saved it. So it was one of those things where she like accidentally happened upon a bunch of text messages that she didn't know were there.
Okay.
So now the boy's like, oh, he got caught and he's like, oh, and he's trying to work it out. But my thing is, you're not married yet and you don't have kids yet. And if this person's hurting you this bad already, would you give that girl the advice to get out of that relationship?
Okay, just me personally, and I have experienced. I've got a story that says things like that. Now because I told her she should have been an investigator. Is how good this woman was. She caught him multiple times. I mean, flat-footed, text, pictures. She had it all. And then
Wow.
I would never tell anyone to step away from their relationship. That has to be an
Good.
independent, I would say, an independent, strategic plan. You don't just walk away from something,
You're right.
especially if
Strategic
you,
is right.
yes, and that is it. You have to have a plan. And if anyone knows, I will tell you what's the plan. So you just don't, oh, one night tell me, oh, I'm out of here. No, because we as women, we don't do something sporadic. If I'm thinking about leaving, I have thought about it for a while. I don't just work up one day, brush my teeth, and say, you know what, I think I'm leaving him. No, I have been thinking about it for a minute, and I'm just waiting for the right moment to
You're
make
right.
a move. But then I say when we make a move, it needs to be strategic, especially if you're living together or you're vested. I mean, you've got real estate together. If you're in, you have to have a plan. You just don't walk out because you don't know what you're leaving behind.
And you need
Now,
to know what your decisions are going to lead to.
yes, you have options. So you need to find out your options. And if it's something like that, we have a home together, but we're not married, then legally you need to find out what your options are before you walk out the door. Are you abandoning your children? Because I would say, if you're a mother, wait a minute. You don't, I mean, because you've got to take, I mean, I would think you, but now I've dealt
I
with women
would.
that
Not
have not.
everybody, but I would too. I
Thank
would
you.
take my
I
kids.
have, I have dealt with women that have not taken their kids and just left. Now, back in the day, that was unheard of, but we're in
Yeah,
a different world now.
we
So
are.
yes, so all of those things need to be taken into consideration before you make the great escape.
I agree. So what if they don't have like any real estate together and this is more of like a boyfriend girlfriend, they've been
Okay.
dating for a year? Because this is the thing. A lot of these young adults, they're 20. So to them, if they're in a 2.5 year relationship, like you have to remember, we don't really remember much before 5 unless it's tragic. So now we're talking about 5 to like 20. So we're only talking 15 years. That's really not a lot of time. So to
Right.
them, 3 years out of that is like a huge part of their life. And they're like, well, now it's like ruin, or I just ruined that time. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
No, no, you did. Because even with that, there's two things. You said, what would I tell her? The first
Yeah.
thing
What
I'd
would you
ask
tell
her
her?
is, why is she in a relationship? That's what I want to know. Why are you still there? What are you getting out of the relationship? What are you afraid of losing? Because whether it's, the victimization, you say you victimize the victim. So whether she's still there, but, it's like, we break up, we make up, but I heard somebody say, oh, well, the sex is great after we break up.
That
After we fuck
annoys
over
me.
it. Totally, totally. So
So
you
wait,
have
why
to
does it
agree,
annoy you? And then I'll tell you why it annoys me.
because I'm thinking like that, one, you diminish me as a woman, that now we have to be almost violent for you to have passionate love with me. Okay,
So
okay.
you're right. So for
So
me, it's the same thing, just using the words classical conditioning. So in psychology with classical conditioning, you're literally, I tell people, and I've heard therapists say like about, oh, make the makeup sex like, and I'm like, what are you telling them? No, don't put the two things together. And let me tell you
yes,
why. If you're listening to this, do not put the two things together, because then what happens is, like you were saying, Melody, then you start to, you don't want to be, I have to be in this horrible thing to get the good part. No, so I don't feel like makeup sex is a good idea at all,
at all.
because you're just reinforcing the fact that the more we fight, the better the sex. No, thank you.
Right.
How about
Because
the
the
better
reality,
you treat me, the better the sex is? How about that?
come on, yes. How about that?
How
Because
about that?
when I'm mad, my whole body's mad. Okay. It's like,
Yes,
it's all of it. But
you're
that's what
right.
I think it comes down to. Where is she broken? That she is letting him do this over and over again to her. She's broken somewhere. There's a
Somewhere.
disconnect. She's either going through the, okay, I wanted to be daddy's little girl, daddy left, got no whatever. There's someplace she is broken, that she is repeating the cycle over again, hoping that it will change. But now if you don't introduce anything new, what's going to make it change? Because
Nothing,
you
because
were
that's the
showing
definition
him,
of insanity.
yes, thank you. You were showing him how to treat you.
Oh,
And
I
if
can't believe you just said that.
the 3 points,
One of
three
my
points,
other things that I always tell my students is you teach people how to treat you.
yes, you do.
People don't,
And
they're
so,
like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, so
right,
with
right,
listening to this, with the name calling, when you're in a brand new relationship, think of it as a brand new plate that you just got, brand new, beautiful plate. Every time you curse at each other or you say something mean to each other, like you're a piece of crap or you're this or you're that, you break your plate, right? So even with the best glue, you could have the best therapist, the best glue, put it together, it looks perfect. It's still a fragile plate because it's been
and,
broken.
and it's
Don't
still, you can still
purposely
see the
break your
cracks, honey.
plate.
Yes,
Yes,
you can
and
still see them.
right, but there's
Yeah,
some people that believe like they did it so well that you can't even see the cracks. My thing is
okay,
it's still going to break much easier the next time. So don't
absolutely.
allow it from the beginning.
That's it. Because the first time, and that's something that, and not saying that we have the ideal relationship, but I am very proud because we work on our relationship.
No, me too. And but I think
We
that's
work
what
on
we're
it.
going to offer so many people is
Yes,
that we've both have been in very long-term loving relationships. My husband is my best friend. Your husband is your
yes,
best friend. Do
yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean? So I think if anything, that gives us a lot more to offer. How did we go from, how do we get somebody that's going to love us forever? And both of our husbands are, let me tell you, women, both of our husbands are extremely in love with us. We ran into each other, and I was with my best friend from fourth grade, and he saw us walking out of like 7-Eleven together, and he was like, you two are still best friends? And we were like, yeah. So we were like, what are you doing? And we started talking, and next thing you know, I've seen him every day since. So we've been
Wow,
together for more than half our lives. How about you?
wow. We are celebrating this year. We just hit years of
Wow.
28 years of marriage.
Wow, good for you.
I know,
So
and that's the
dating
biggest
wise,
thing.
I guess we've been
Yeah,
together for 24 years, and we've
yeah.
been married for, wait, this is horrible. My daughter's 20, so we've been married 19 years. That's how
It's
I
all
figure
good.
it out.
Yes, that's okay. Long as
It
the
happens.
numbers, because it's just the culture now that you're talking about, back to our story as far as the young girl, that you're looking like you got 2 years in, like that's time. That's not real time. So when you hear someone that's vested in, it's only because we chose not to quit.
That's
That's
right.
that's
And I
it.
had a boyfriend for like 10 years before my husband, and that was like ridiculous. It was like I had a boyfriend from like 13 to 21,
Yes,
and
yes.
that was just ridiculous. Nobody should be in a relationship at that young.
Now,
So,
now,
and that was my
tell
own
me why.
trauma.
But tell me why you stayed for 10 years with that person and you weren't married.
Because I did not have self-esteem. I didn't have the self-esteem or the self-worth. And also, I grew up in a family where, in Italian culture, where the wife is like the side person, where the husband is like the main person. And this person that I was dating was in the same type of family structure. And
Okay.
I was felt like I would have just, like you said, it's actually a term in psychology, intergenerational transmission of trauma. So I was just repeating the cycle. So
Yep.
one day I woke up and I was like, I don't want this for myself. I want to be a doctor someday. I want to, and with this other person, and he's a great man. We still talk today. And my husband is not like threatened by that at all. He knows that I would never, like, yeah. But and this guy's the one that always says like, "Oh, you were the one that got away," and I'm like, "Thank God I got away because I I would not have been the person that I wanted to be if I didn't."
Yeah,
So my thing
yeah.
is, ladies, even if you're 21, 23 years old, that's nothing. You could still, you know what I mean? But then again, at the same time, I think of it this way. My daughter is in an amazing relationship, and I wouldn't want somebody like her to hear this and be like, "Oh, maybe I should be dating other people, whatever," because I feel like she found her Mike and her Ryan. So
Okay.
if you do have a good guy or a good girl,
Yes,
make
build
sure that
on it.
you acknowledge that
Yes,
and
build
build
on
on
it.
it. Yeah,
Build on it
I
and
agree with
celebrate
that.
it, because the main thing is to, and I'll just kind of give you just, I call them words of wisdom, as far
Love
as,
that.
to whoever's listening, that the main thing that we were born into, we were born to make sure that we had security. That is the main thing with one. I will follow you around the world if I know I'm secure. If I am your
You're right.
first thought, we will follow. Now, men are task oriented. They have to, whether it's a sports, there has to be a beginning, middle, and a climax. That's just how they're wired. When God created them, it was just like, okay, this is your assignment. Fulfill the assignment, and then you have success. So that's why you hear young guys like, oh, I don't want to get married yet because I'm not settled. I'm not established. I'm not this. It is the conquering piece of the way that men are wired, that they
That's
have to
true.
succeed something. And then if they don't have an assignment, they're lost and they're confused because they don't
I
know
love
where to
that.
put roots at. And you just look at it, guys, why they're so competitive, whether it's in business or whether it's in sports, they are trying to solve that equation as far as what is my purpose, what is my assignment, what am I here for? And that's why, of course, it was the first thing they needed to do. They went to work. Okay, then check one. Can I afford to do this now? So, but we had one assignment, and that was to be the mate or the help or the support to that man. So women, we were built for relationship. We were built for relationship. And
Yep.
that's why we are on the hamster wheel,
No,
because
you're
we're
right.
after something that's supposed to be brought to us. So,
No, you're
and
right. And we need to find somebody that's willing to put us number one instead of us being the side thing.
yes, yes, a second thought. No one wants to be a second thought. If
Nope.
I can't trust him to make a decision for me that's going to benefit me, that it seems like he is taking me into consideration, that needs to be your first warning sign, because any relationship that failed, there were always warning signs that you either chose to listen to or not to listen to. You chose
Right.
to see it. Oh, well, that's just the way he is. You made an excuse for him. Oh,
That's right.
he really didn't mean it. Yeah, if he did it, he did mean it.
That's
Okay.
right.
So we lie to ourselves to keep us in it, because there's a young lady I'm dealing with right now. I think she's got like 13, 14 years in. No ring, no real commitment. And it's like, what are you waiting for? But now the trick is that I've put so much time in, do I really walk away?
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of these girls, they gave in after 2 years that they put so
Yeah,
much time in. So I couldn't imagine what the young lady you're dealing with, because that is a
yeah,
lot of time,
it is.
but it's
And
still
see,
okay.
but my point is, where have you made the demand to step up? You have not. And I keep saying, oh goodness, just help us. That we're saying to these young girls, okay, if you're giving him everything now, why marry you?
Yeah,
Why?
why buy the milk when you can get the cow for free?
Right. And I get all the calorie I want. I mean, you're doing everything, whether it's outside the bedroom, inside the bedroom, you're doing all of that. And because you do not value, and I told you I was going to say it, you don't value your cookies, then now you're looking like, what else is it? I mean,
I
come on, you're
agree.
jumping off the ceiling, you're swinging from the lanterns. What is there to bring into marriage that he has not already experienced?
No, you're right, but it's funny you say that about swinging off the that I think that's great because we were just talking about this in class the other day. I think a lot of young people because they grew up with the internet, like we didn't have the internet growing up as
Mhm.
teenagers, thank goodness, because I couldn't imagine living in
Right.
today's day and age. It's got to be horrible. And I mean, I guess there could be good things too, but I don't know. But anyway, so I tell my students and my daughters and stuff, sex is not what you see on the internet. So
Yes.
it shouldn't be people swinging from the ceiling fan and stuff. Like you should like in real life. Oh, sorry about that. In real life, people don't. swing from the chandelier or do like a flip and then land on you type thing. Like, I think sometimes people just like they have expectations that are just not real. So I try
Yeah,
to remind people, remember, if you're ever seeing something on the internet, know that most of the time there was a contract that was made and these people sat down first and they did the things that we're saying to do. Like they had a conversation. They were like, are you cool with this? Yes. Are you cool with that? No. Are you? So they have a contract and they're also acting. So you
that's
have to put
it.
that
That's
into there
it.
too. That's
That's
not real
that's the
life.
main thing. That is not. But see, your paradigm doesn't know the difference. How can I prove it to you real quick? When we go into a movie, everybody's doing the Halloween thing now, that my emotions get tied to what's on the screen. And my mind doesn't know the difference because why? Why do I cry in movies? Because I'm emotionally connected because my paradigm thinks it's real, even though my mind is saying, well, just a movie. Then why are you crying? Okay. Why are you upset? Why is your heart beating so fast? Because you're running because they're walking down the dark alley. So my paradigm doesn't know the difference when my mind is trying to tell me it's not real. So when I see it on the screen or I see it as something that you're looking at, and we can talk about porn when you're looking at that, that now you think, okay, this is real because my paradigm is saying, oh, I gotta try it. This is real. It's an actor.
It's
Come
an
on,
actor.
dude. I'm like, get it together. Like, really? You really think that is real? And that you
And I
can now
always tell
try.
girls, I was like, the first few times it's going to be short and awkward. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's how it is. So people have expectations. And I think that's a great point. So the number one cause of a divorce or a separation is a violation of expectations.
Yes.
So you have to, and I think that as we grow, because even you and I, we've grown over these 25, 28 years. And how do you grow with a person? Do you know what I mean? Because we are going to grow. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I was going to have a doctorate degree in educational leadership, I would have been like, no. And, but I do, I'm going to be soon. I'm getting there.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like, and that's good, right? So you can continue to grow and strengthen your identity throughout life. It doesn't have to be something that's just done in your 20s. I think sometimes, young 20-year-olds, they put so much pressure on themselves and they
No,
don't have to be their 45-year-old self at 20.
exactly. And just to answer that question, which you said, how do you grow? You allow yourself and the other person to make mistakes. That's how you grow.
Yes.
You grow.
Promise you, if you met him because he cheated with somebody else with you, I
Come
always
on.
say if they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you.
Come on. But that's life. That's life. And
Right.
see that,
But think about it, right? Because people are like, no, why is that true? And I'm like, think about it. If they were married and in love and everything and had kids and they were willing to cheat on their family with you, why do you think that if you marry this person, you're going to
you're the
be like something
exception.
different? No, if they
You're
don't
the
deal with their
exception.
own selves, he's just going to do it to you. And then it
Right.
happens and they're surprised.
Right. Right. And the reality is that when you cheat, the first time is always the hardest. Everything after that, it gets easier because you
That's
convince
right.
yourself out of it. So the first time was the time that it should have been devastating. Like, oh my God, what did I do? What is going on with that was the hardest time. But then once they do it and they repeat it, it's kind of like, I learned how to cheat better now.
That's
Yes.
right. You are so right. Isn't that funny, right? I
It
love
is
that we're talking
hilarious.
about relationships, and I think that we're really going to be able to help people, especially, I think all ages, but especially young adult women. And I think a big part of it, if you even like add COVID and everything into it, if you're 20 years old and you had 3 years of COVID, that's a lot, right? So just like, but at the same time, I also don't want to watch what I say because we're just saying that relationships for 2 years isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. Neither will the 3 years of COVID in the grand scheme of things. However, a lot of these females were in high school during that time, and high
Mhm.
school is a time where kiss this one or kiss that. And if you weren't in school and everything's online, what I'm finding now is a different paradigm with my students. I feel like they don't know how to connect
They
because
don't. They don't.
they only
I'm
know how to
connect.
do it
I'm
online.
connecting as I'm scrolling. That's connecting.
Yes.
I'm
Did
scrolling.
you know that according to statistics, 28 years old is the age right now of when people lose their virginity?
Wow. I would actually celebrate that, but I don't
I
know
would
what
too.
statistic that I don't know what they're basing that off. What area that they're basing that from? But
Yeah,
that would actually
I'll have to get it the actual thing so that I could put it up there. I'll
yeah,
put it like
because
in the comment section.
yeah, because the reason why I say that is because that means you have been selective, and you should be. Just because I'm in relationship with you does not mean that goes to the next step. But that is the assumption in the culture that I know I'm communicating. too,
Me
because
too.
they're looking like, oh, and you have to come to the why. And you're talking about things that I would love to hear in the comment. Why do you feel as though a physical relationship has to be a part of a relationship in the beginning? And what's your time mark? First date, second date. Now I've talked to some ladies, it's first date. And they're looking like, well, why wouldn't it be? He has not, or she has not, and sometimes it's she, has not proven to you that they are worthy of you sharing that intimacy at that moment.
And not
What
only that, they're when they go home, they're probably thinking
yeah.
that if you did that with them, you probably have done this multiple times.
How many other people? So one, you're
Yeah.
putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're showing. I mean, I don't care how sharp, how fine, how handsome, how suave, all of that is. But then you have to realize, one, you don't know the person. And I've had this conversation because I am, I'm in corporate America. I said, and I have actually been able to be on the advisory board for young ladies in my job field. And that's what I'm saying. I talk to them. I'm constantly coaching them and helping them, inside and out. So, I do come with, over 30 years of just ministry experience with this and then life coaching. So, you just set up that dynamic as far as how people are thinking nowadays. So because you want them to want you, you are so giving slash desperate. You don't want to say that, but that's how you're coming across. And
No,
and
you're
my
right.
main focus is to just help. If we help one young lady not to make a bad decision, then I'm happy with what we're doing today.
Yeah, me too. And so my timeline thing, I say it this way. So I obviously it depends on your age too, but never a first date. Like I just, and again, I'm not judging anybody that does. I'm not slut
No,
shaming or anything. So please, I'm just saying if you're looking for somebody that, like, if you're looking for a serious relationship, that shouldn't be the goal. Because I also find that a lot of times with males, they want to like chase something. So if you give it up that first
absolutely.
time, there's nothing to chase.
Great. And see,
And
the
then
thing
you're like,
about
why
it,
didn't they call me?
right, because men are conquerors. Remember I told you about the task and
Yes.
how they do. Men are conquerors. They are a pursuer. It's the inherent nature of a man. If he can pursue something, if he can conquer something, then he feels as though it's the game. I win. I'm the champion. But then you should be the prize that he wants to win.
Right.
So if there is no challenge, then he's looking like, I'm done with it.
And
Because
if you
that's
wait a while, then the person gets to know who you are. And my thing is, if like a month passes and you're still not physically intimate, that's a good thing because that means that this
absolutely,
person likes you so much that they're not
they're
even
willing to
worried
wait.
about that. Yeah,
No,
they're
they're
they're they're
willing to
like
wait.
that'll come when it does. And that
Yeah.
was one of the things that I loved about my daughter's boyfriend. He was like, she was so worried because it was like coming up on like 10 or 11 months. So to her, I guess in her head, she had a year in her head because like you
Uh-huh.
said, we all have like our own little time in our head. And
Yes.
she was like, I'm not ready. And he was like, that's okay. And I was like,
Right.
oh, marry this boy. Oh,
Yes. You told him, I'm gonna buy the ring.
I don't know
And
about
see,
all that. No, I'm just kidding.
but I think that comes back to just, putting things in perspective because the culture is kind of like, oh, I like you, we date, we're great, move in. You're like, how do we get from, you're moving so fast that you don't even have time to process. Do I really know this person? What do I know about this person? How does this person really feel about me? Am I
Right.
just something else to conquer? Or am I something to do at the time? Am I filling a gap? Am I getting you off a rebound? There are so many things that you have to do. So I always tell them, just slow down. Time is your friend
Hmm.
that gives you time to process who they are. Do you really like them? They may smack their teeth. They may eat terrible. You don't even know anything about them, and you're just looking like, oh, because he's just so cute on the football field. He's just so, darling. Please release your hormones, unplug for a minute, and just say, can you really see this person in your future and why? You've
You're
got to,
right. And most people, if they're doing you wrong, a lot of times they have the ability to charm. So they have the ability to charm themselves back into your life. So make
mhm.
sure that you're aware of that too, ladies, if you're listening to this, because a charming man doesn't mean that they're loving. And at the
No,
same time, intensity doesn't equal love. And I think a lot of times
exactly.
people mistake the two. Just because
Yes.
it's intense doesn't mean that it's love. I tell
No,
my
it's,
students all the time the best relationships are boring.
I'll
Think
take a
about it, right?
boring, I'll take a boring one
Well,
because
that's what I mean.
boring
Because if you think
sometimes can
about it,
be,
you're
yes.
right. But if you think about it, if it's dramatic, it's because somebody did something wrong.
Right. It's like, but see, sometimes you get connected and addicted to the roller coaster ride. We're up today, we're down tomorrow. We're up today, we're down. and you're on that roller coaster ride. So it's the adrenaline rush
You're right.
that you're really addicted to.
And
But
they're
watching
probably
it
the
in a
people that are doing
relationship.
makeup sex.
Yes, yes,
You're
yes.
right.
And
But
I'm thinking,
and if you're listening to this, if you could see how this how it almost is like how can not turn out to be that way. It's human behavior, like you were saying. We're here for a reason. And one thing I did want to say that you mentioned about you when you said like when we watch a movie and then we cry, and if we watch a football game even and somebody misses the field goal, we're like, oh, as if we missed the field goal. A
mhm,
part of that. So not only is there an emotional part of that, there's also the mirror neuron system. So there's a biological component to this. So one of the ways that we as humans are able to be so advanced is because we're one of the species that can watch another generation do something and do what they did in that same generation, as opposed to waiting hundreds of years for that to occur. So
right,
for
right.
example, if you watched your dad like out in the wilderness, I'm talking back in the beginning, if you're watching your dad like how to kill an animal and then use its coat to keep us warm and da da da. You're watching it, and then you eventually are able to do that. Where with a lot of other animals, it takes many generations.
To
Do you know what I
process
mean?
that
For them
information,
and for
yes.
their body to adapt. So we do have a mirror neuron system, and that's a big thing. So that's also why things feel so intense in a moment. Or if you have somebody charming, that's why sometimes that might get over on you. And again, it's because it's that mirror neuron system. So you're thinking like, oh, if they're feeling this way about me and I'm feeling that way about them, but here that could just be part of their player, if you will.
Yeah. That's part of the player zone.
Player, that's part of the player game. That's part.
Yes.
So this is the deal. So what talking? So I think we're going to talk a lot about relationships, which is good. I do want to. So for the next talk that we have, let's talk about. Well, first of all, people in the comments, please put what you would like to hear us speak
Yes,
about.
we would love to do some topics for you. Yes.
Absolutely. We have a lot of experience. We have a lot of life experience. I like you were saying your credentials. I have a master's in counseling psychology and a specialization in marriage and family therapy. I've been a professor for 18 years. And I'm about to get my doctorate degree in educational leadership for higher ed. So we do have a wealth of knowledge, and I sometimes watch different videos, and I think being a YouTube creator is a great thing. I think though having people that have um, the education and the research knowledge behind it really helps, because we're not just coming from our opinions. These are, I mean, you've seen this with couples 10, 15 years. I mean, it's just human behavior. It is what it is.
Mhm.
So the same advice that you probably gave 15 years ago, you probably use a lot of that same advice, because things don't change as far as, you know what I mean, as advice. So we just have, I feel like we have the ability to offer that to people. And I think there's such a need out there. I didn't realize how many young females don't have somebody that they feel like they could go to,
Yes.
even about sex and stuff. Like they just,
Mhm.
or maybe their mom said, make sure you're safe, but that was it.
Yes,
And
that
the
was all you
mom
got.
said it at 25 when it was 8 years too late.
I love it.
You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like, mom, pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, yeah,
You're right.
you're giving
You
me
said
the sex talk,
you
and
missed
I'm about to tell you I'm
you missed
pregnant.
a couple steps. Yeah.
Yeah, we missed a couple steps there. So hopefully between you and I, we can fill that gap for them. I also know that as being a psychologist, there's not, and it is, I'm just going to be real right now. Only about I think the actual statistic is less than 10% of our counselors look like us, right? So there's a lot of women that need a melody in their life that are unable, unfortunately, to find one in the real counseling world and things like that. So we need to empower young women so that they could start filling these spots to help other young women. And again,
Yes.
I don't think you need to look like somebody to necessarily help them. However, I feel like if you're even a little bit like, on the fence about counseling or something, if you do show up and this person, you could see yourself in them, you're much more willing to come back.
Yes.
Does
Yes.
that make sense? So
Yes.
I think that we're really providing a service that is so under served right now.
I agree because I know when I was coming up that I would have loved to have had a platform like this that I could listen to, put my concerns out there, ask because your parents, I know mine were they were very prudent as far as things like that. Some things you just didn't talk about. I don't care what you know. Now I had an older sister, but then some things you still didn't talk about then. So where do I go to get my answer? So the only place you go to
Right.
get your answer is from the culture that you're in, which is distorted and confused.
That's right.
So, so they don't know what to tell you. So then you make repeated bad decisions trying to find the right answer. What and the first thing, what is love to those that are in 20? What is love to you? And it has to be something more than something physical. But what really is love? We don't know what love is. We know what lust is, and you find yourself in lust trying to find love, but
That's
then you
right.
keep a cycle because you're checking with this one, you're checking with this one, you're checking with this one. Next thing you know, you got a bad reputation
That's
because
right.
you're searching to be filled, and you're going all the wrong places.
That's
So,
absolutely right.
so that's why, just with this channel, we want to help you. I call it avoid the landmines
Yep.
and repeating the same cycles, and like how do I get off this cycle? It's the same thing that once you start dipping and dabbing physically, then now your body is going to conform to that, and now you're going to desire something, but now you're not in a relationship. So what do I do?
No,
So
you're
then do
right.
I settle for something that I really don't want just to get the edge off? So it's like you repeat the cycle, but you're more valuable than that. And that's the only thing for whoever's listening. I just want you to know, I want you to be authentically you and to understand you have value. That's
And be authentic, meaning that because a lot of people are like, what exactly would that be? Be yourself. Don't be
yes.
anybody but yourself. This is the
No.
thing. So I am very I'll put it out there. I have ADHD, so I'm very hyperactive type thing. So
Mm,
growing up, there was a lot of times that people would like, I would say, I used to say dumb me down, but all I mean by that is they would do something like shh. Like that really like hurt somebody's self-esteem when they're like, because I didn't realize that I was being too whatever. So my thing is, don't let other people do that. Be your genuine self. Somebody out there is going to love you for who you are. My
yes.
husband loves all those things about me.
Thank you. Say it. I am very high intense. I am high intense. But Mike loves me because I know sometimes it's like, I got to unplug. I'll be like, okay, let me give him a minute because he can't keep up with all of that. And then we have to learn as we mature to balance it out.
Right.
But it still is appreciated and it still should be valued. That's the
That's
main
right.
thing.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. All right. So let's bring this to a close for today and let's give everybody something that they could write about in the comments. So first we asked people to write about what topics would you like.
Yeah.
Another one you said, what was it about the physical? You said does
What
what
is
was it?
love?
What is love?
What
What
is
is
love?
love?
Love to
What
you.
is
What is
love
love to you?
to you? Okay.
Hmm.
Um, and then the next thing is I just hope that people come back and they tune in. And again, even if we can help one or two people, that that's worth it for me.
Yes, because we definitely want to build a community of a safe place for us to talk. That
And
that
we're
is
going
a
to do that.
yes, we can build community because it's no wrong answer. Only bad question is a question that's unasked. So,
That's
it's
right.
kind of like what we do in the classroom as far as like, if you have a question and you feel as though no one would answer it, then put it in the comments and see if we can tackle it for you.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, let's
I love
so
that. And then we could even do videos where we print out like questions and we can do like answer questions.
question and answers. Absolutely. We got a question for so and so. You can be anonymous. You don't have to say your name. We got a question for so and so. They want to know how to do A, B, and C. Is it okay to do this? Is it okay to do that? What do you think about that? I think yes, between both of us and all of our experience and degrees and all of that, that we can make an impact on this world, in this country, and that's our passion, our desire, is to help our young women feel safe and valued. That is
One of
really
the
it.
ways we're going to do that, you guys, is if you like and subscribe to the channel, because the more subscriptions you get and the more likes you get, there's an algorithm for YouTube. So I'm just using YouTube as an example, but the more people like or subscribe, the more we're able to show, because it's an algorithm. So the more likes you get, the more people see your videos. So please do us a favor and like and subscribe below. And we're here to help you. This is going to be
That's
good.
it's going to be great.
And eventually I hope we could open this up to where we could even do something like we can have people call in and ask questions. This is going to
Yes.
be a good thing. We're all going to help each other.
Absolutely, because of course, my goal is, and I told you when we started out, I said I knew that this was supposed to be just waiting for the what would you say, the stars to align.
That's
But
right. And the
I
stars
said
align.
just to be able to meet personally with all of your viewing audience, to be able to meet with them and to go away. I love the beach, and so we can go away and do a little summit girl connection time, pamper time,
Hey, that
all of
works.
those just to pour back into you, because sometimes we as women, we carry so many hats, and we do have layers of being wounded through relationships, and you always don't know how to rebound, because it's hard sometimes if you have been crushed and now you're like, where do I go from here? How do I get back on that horse? How do I trust again? How do I love again? How do I open my heart back up again? And I would rather you ask that question instead of being bitter. And we all know bitter women. Oh my God.
Oh, yes.
And it's just like, who peed in your happy cup? Okay. It's like,
I always say, who pissed in your Easter basket?
yes, it's one of them. Somebody's peeing somewhere. Okay. But to
But this
be
is
able,
another thing. So me and Melody, I mean, this is a newer friendship, and we're even realizing how much just that we have in common. So it's not that we didn't grow up in the same neighborhood. I don't know how you grew up. I know how I grew up. I grew up in a very low income neighborhood. You know, it was I have a lot of trauma from that, but everybody on this platform is going to have different upbringings. So I think that it's important to show that we could all have different upbringings and have the exact same wants and needs as
yes.
women. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you grew up, where I grew up. We
No,
both want to be
no.
loved. We both want to be validated. We both
Yes.
want good people behind us.
Yes.
And both
But,
of our husbands right now are totally supportive of us. My
oh,
husband,
absolutely.
not one dog barked this whole time. So he did exactly what I asked him to do.
So yes,
Nobody's
tell
singing
us
in your
thank you.
camera. So
Yeah,
everybody asked you to do what you did. You know what I mean?
yes,
So there you go. It's all
we're
about
good.
respect.
It is, and I love that. And first, there was just something that just really just kind of just laid on my heart. Just even those that are listening, that I give you permission to forgive yourself. That I think
Yes.
that's one of the things that I think we need to do. That whatever part I played in, wherever I am in life, whatever I'm dealing with presently, that I have to be able to give myself space and permission to one say, I forgive myself. That I can make a
We
mistake.
need to do a
I
whole
place
thing
it
on
on myself.
forgiveness.
I think we do, because forgiveness is so powerful, and we
And
don't realize
people
how
don't
powerful
realize forgiveness thinks that if you say
it is. About the other
even forget.
person.
Yeah, so my daughter, she was only 6 at the time, real quick, and she's the one that got me, like, gave me an aha moment. Forget what it was, but somebody said they were sorry to me, and I was like, "It's okay." And later on, she said, "Mom, why did you say that it was okay?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I guess because that's what you say." Yeah. And she goes, "Well, why don't you say I accept your apology?" I was like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Wow, I love that." So I never say it's okay anymore. I say I accept your
No,
apology.
because sometimes it's not okay.
No.
No, it's not
It's
okay.
not
It's not
okay, and a
okay
lot
for
of
you
you
to
were
hurt
raised
me.
to say
Yes,
it's okay.
yes,
You could
and it's
say, "I
not
accept
okay.
your apology." And also know this, to forgive somebody else has nothing to do with the other person. So
Absolutely,
we're gonna do a whole thing on this.
I love
Just
that.
know that it has nothing to do with the other person. It's
Mhm.
literally saying, by you forgiving somebody else, you are saying that I refuse to allow you to have power over me any longer. Because
Yes,
in order for you to feel that way, you have that emotional connection to the person.
yes,
By
yes,
forgiving them, you
yes,
unleash it.
yes. And you take your power back.
You take your power back. So you forgive them,
Yes,
not for them, for you.
for me, it's all about me. Because
We're going
if
to
I
do a
don't
forgiveness
forgive them,
episode.
absolutely, if I don't forgive them, I stay stuck. I stay
Yes.
stuck in the moment, and they move
Yes.
on.
They
Okay.
move on.
Yes. No, we're gonna do
And
it.
then you're
We're gonna do
carrying
it.
it to your next relationships and stuff. And it
Yes.
just,
Baggage, baggage,
we're going
baggage.
to do, we should do episodes on like parenting. I think that
Yep.
would be good because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, a lot of people have seen their parents. And we also talked about a lot of girls that have maybe dad issues. Think
Yep.
about the brother that also was raised in that household that didn't have a dad to model that
Yep.
behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so we should do a whole nother thing. Well, I'll have to remind myself. I have a whole theory on warriors and worriers. And again, that all
Yes.
comes back to our childhood. So we're going to close this one out today. And we have plenty of topics that we're going to be doing in the future. And I hope everybody loved our first episode of our podcast, She
Yes.
Rises.
Yes. She rises, and of course, the main thing. Let us know what you think. So if we can make it better, just tell us how, because we are here for you. But my, of course, closing remarks is, women, let's rise together.
Let's rise together. And if you have nothing nice to say in the comments, don't say it at all.
Get them.
Do you know what I mean? My thing is, if you don't like what we're saying, just go to somewhere else. Like, this is for people that want to be accepted. And so I want them to come here knowing that they're accepted. I don't want them coming here being afraid that if they say something, somebody else is going to attack them. So that's
No,
not what we're looking for. So everybody be nice to each other in the comments.
that's right.